What's up guys, Dark Dally here, and today I'm continuing my test on the sniper rifle bullet drop in Ghost Recon Wildlands. Now if you've been following this series, I'm going through each of the sniper rifles, and after the original video where I got a good baseline for the bullet drop of all of them at 350 meters and graphed it all out, comparing them, now I'm going through them one by one, modifying them, seeing what the best accuracy I can get with each rifle is, and which scope is best to use with certain rifles. And it's been really fun so far, and today we are finally at the HTI. I've had this rifle requested a lot, and I finally feel comfortable to go ahead and do this, especially since now I'm back home. Now, most of you guys are going to know that I've been out of town for the last week. I was down at the MotoGP in Austin, Texas, and if you're unfamiliar with that, it's a motorcycle race. I finally just got back from that, and that was really fun. You know, just FYI, that was really fun. I got to see the race, and because it's a racing circuit that's held all over the world, there's only one race per year in the US, and so I try to make it when I can, and it was really cool. I got an autograph from my favorite rider on my hat. That was really cool. It was a really awesome time, but I'm also really glad to be back because the content I've been uploading over the last week, you know, was stuff I prepared ahead of time. So now I'm back here live in person, and I can actually engage with you guys and get the videos out on a daily basis, you know, on time like I usually do. All right, so the HTI, not to delay any further. Okay, so let's lay out the tests, and what we're doing is we're shooting at this wall from 350 meters, which is exactly at the end of the runway. Now, we're at Villa Verde City in Villa Verde. It's a good place. This is just the place I always use, although there are a multitude of places you could use. This wall is where I've been doing all my testing on. And the reason 350 meters, it's a good, really solid engagement distance, because I'm talking about realistic sniping, not, you know, 2-kilometer target shooting for fun. That's all well and good, but I want to provide useful data for actually taking, you know, outposts, and 350 meters is a really good distance. That's where the bullet really starts to drop off, and you're really never going to have an actual engagement in the game that forces you, you know, to take a shot from any distance greater than 350. Now, about the HTI, I do have a friend who tests the rifles a lot more in depth than I do. He just has more time to do it, and he takes a lot more longer shots, and he does a lot of really detailed stuff. And one thing about the HTI, before I get started, I want to mention is he's noticed and told me, and so I have tested and noticed, and this will be in the test today, a slight kind of minute of angle variation in this rifle at long distance. His message to me was that there's a 2 MOA offset to the right at over 600 meters. Now, of course, I'm only testing at 350. I definitely want to look into that, though, and we're going to do that on top of the normal stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to do is let's go ahead and just see. This is what I've been doing with all of the rifles so far. Let's go ahead and get it down stock, and let's just make sure how centered it is with all the scopes. I've run into some scopes that simply aren't centered with the rifles, and then that throws all the further tests off. So it's something that you definitely want to check. Let's just go ahead and reset. So that'll give us the ACOG scope. And let's go ahead and let's just check this, and this is just simply shooting at the wall from, like, you know, 70 or so meters, and just making sure that it's hitting in the center of the crosshair. Okay, this one actually has the adjustment. Some of the sniper rifles don't. With the ACOG, this one does let you do this. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to do. It doesn't really increase the zoom, except maybe by like an inch. Mostly it just makes the scope bigger. So this one does have that. Some of the sniper rifles do not. Let's go ahead, and we're unsuppressed, totally stock here. And I'm not really timing these shots with the breath because I'm simply not firing from a far enough distance to make that an issue. These both look a little high over the crosshair, and a little bit to the right. And that kind of goes along with what my friend said, and that's something we will delve into. This rifle does appear to kind of shoot off to the right, and in this case, it's not the scope. It does appear to be the rifle because I was not testing it with the ACOG. I was testing it with a different scope. Let's go ahead and try the next scope on the list. Let's try the TARS 101. So that looked just a hair to the right, but really totally usable. I just want to make sure that none of these scopes are... See, that's fine. And if you're curious what I'm talking about putting something like the PKS-07 onto the Dragunov, where it shoots noticeably to the right with that scope, but not with other scopes. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Or the G28 scope on all of the rifles, they all shoot, you know, off center from the crosshair. And if we're going to do any kind of reliable testing, then we need to make sure they're hitting that, you know, like that's acceptable. We need to make sure that they're hitting in a usable spot with the crosshair on the scope. I try to make this quick. I skip over the digital scope. I'm not sure anyone actually uses that for sniping. We're going to skip to the Chinese scope, and then 2 more after this. I want to get through this really quickly. The POSP is fine. Totally fine. Now let's jog down to the PKS-07. The PKS-07 is totally fine. And one last one I want to try is the G28, even though I got a pretty good idea how this is going to turn out. It's going to shoot right at the top of the crosshair. And I continue to mention this in every video because a lot of people like to use the G28. I like to use the G28. It's a fine scope. Just know that when you shoot, the bullet goes above the crosshair. And see, that's not much. See, it's just barely up there. But it does increase at distance. It increases at distance, and it will actually make it appear as though your bullet drop is lessened. That small distance... Whoops. Let's go ahead and fire this again. That small distance you see there at a range of, you know, even at only 350 meters, that small distance becomes a couple of feet. So I just like to reinforce that for normal practice, for normal usage, when you're raiding an outpost or whatever, if you're aiming at center mass, it's not going to be an issue. But if you're doing a long range target practice and things like that, the G28 is going to give you some inconsistencies when compared with other scopes. Let's go ahead and do the T5XI because that's the one I'm using for all the testing to make everything, you know, a level playing field. So the HTI is still totally stock, except now it has the T5XI scope. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put up on screen right now. This is the results that I posted in the first video where you're looking at. This is the base bullet drop from 350 meters of all the sniper rifles, completely stock with the T5XI scope. This is where they're all hitting. Notice there's a nice big cluster right in the middle. And honestly, those are pretty much all the same. That could really just be accounted for variation in, you know, where I'm hitting on the breath. But you do see some differences, such as the M1891, you know, the Dragunov, the G28, the SR25, I believe it is. There's a couple that hit noticeably higher and noticeably lower. I forget which ones are some of the higher ones. But SR1, I think is what I'm thinking of. I'm not looking at the picture right now, even though it's on screen. But yeah, you see what I'm saying. So in the middle, there is definitely some room for error, although I think it's safe to say the HTI and the MSR are far enough off from one another that you can say that that's not just coincidence or margin of error. That is a difference, but some of those are pretty much on top of each other. In fact, to make some of that graphic, some of those bullet holes I actually had to move because they were directly on top of each other, so I had to put them side by side. So a lot of these rifles do hit right in the same spot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this mark. I'm going to put it over here, right on top of the wall, which is what we've been doing. Let's make sure it's on top of the wall. I want to move it over to the side so that we're not getting mixed up with these bullet holes. Okay, there you can see the mark is right on top of the wall. That's how we've been doing this. Let's go back to 350 meters. And now that we know this rifle is good with all the scopes, let's see, you know, let's just go ahead and repeat our baseline and make sure we're hitting in the same spot stock. And then we will do the modifications, of which there's only one that will affect bullet drop, and I'll get to that. We'll do the modifications and see how we can improve it. Okay, and here we are at my usual 350 meters with the HTI, the Desert Tech Hard Target Interdiction Sniper Rifle. And we are ready to go. So let's go ahead. Now for these tests, I've been aiming directly in the center of that triangle. I just want to keep that consistent. That's where I've always been aiming for these. There's a nice baseline shot for us. Let's go ahead and zoom in and see where we're at on the wall. Okay, and so we hit on the 4th brick up. Let me look at the original graph here. We hit just directly under where we did in the base test. So that tells me that this is totally good and legit. I'm not worried about a margin of error by 1 inch because that's like 1 inch off, if that. You can see these rifles have very consistent bullet drop. So we're hitting right where we were. Now there's only one modification to this weapon available that's going to affect its bullet drop. In fact, there's only 2 total that can, that I've seen through all the testing, and that's going to be a rangefinder or different barrel length. Now, because we can't mount anything on the rail on this, even though it has a rail, whatever, it's okay. Let's go ahead and let's put the long barrel on. Now this should raise us up a couple of bricks on that wall, and then what I want to do is I'm going to compare where it hits modified to the other tests that we've done so far modified, so we can see where they land modified and how big an improvement each one gets when compared to another. I want to look at these parts one more time. Muzzle will not affect bullet drop whatsoever. Adding a suppressor will only affect the time it takes the bullet to travel to the target. Putting a suppressor on will reduce the time it takes. Will increase the time it takes by about a half to a third. So expect more time for it to travel to the target. That's going to affect moving targets, of course, but it will not affect bullet drop, and the magazine will not affect anything. So this is the only modification we can do. Let's go ahead and see what kind of improvement we get to the bullet drop with the long barrel on the HTI. Okay, I think I hit just a hair, just a little bit high. I think I shot just a little bit high, but again, it's only going to be about an inch. I'm really not worried about those because, again, we're talking about usability in combat, and 1 inch means, you know, hitting the guy in the eye versus the eyebrow, right? So, okay, so we went up exactly 2 bricks, and that's exactly what I expected to see. So far, every time I've mounted a longer barrel on a weapon, it has reduced the bullet drop by 2 bricks on this wall at 350 meters. So we can see that that's where it landed. Now let me go ahead and let's pop up the graphic of all the combined results of all the rifles we've tested so far, which I'm trying to recall from memory has been the Dragunov, the L115, the SR1, and the MSR. There might be another one in there. And here you can see on the right side of the picture, you can see where they all hit stock, and that's all taken from the original graphic. And on the left side of the screen, you see the modified bullet shot. I've marked where it hit on the wall, so you can see the improvement of all of them compared to the original and compared to each other. Alright guys, and I hope you guys found this information helpful. Let me know if there's any thoughts you have on this, any comments you want to make, anything you want to see, so on and so forth. I hope you liked the video, guys. This has been a real popular test. A lot of you guys are really enjoying this series, and I'm glad to see that because I like doing this kind of stuff. And that said, before I end this video, I want to say that, you know, this is kind of cool because this is stuff that's going to start tomorrow. Today, Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 was released, and I had the chance to go pick that up at the store. So I'm going to be spending the rest of today and tomorrow playing that game, and I'm going to be mixing in some of that content along with the Wildlands content, which of course I will continue to do. Now, Sniper Ghost Warrior 3, I have some slightly different expectations for that game than I had for this game. I really do. I've got a good idea what to expect going in, but one thing I want to get from that game is I really want to compare the sniping and bullet physics from Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 to Wildlands. I'm really hoping to see some more realistic things. One thing that irks me about this game is it doesn't really get too realistic with the bullet physics. You know, we can measure bullet drop and this and that, but a lot of this stuff doesn't line up. A lot of this stuff isn't realistic, and of course these scopes are not adjustable whatsoever. And one thing that I like about Sniper Ghost Warrior 3, and I can't wait to see this in game, I can't wait as soon as I get this video uploaded, I'm going to install that game and have fun with it the rest of the day. One thing I really want to see is that you can actually adjust the scopes in that game, and you know, you actually are adjusting for elevation and things like you are here, but also for windage. And I'm eager to see hopefully more realistic sniping models. So guys, stay tuned on the channel for Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 content. I'm looking forward to doing it. I hope you guys are looking forward to seeing it. And this is all due to a fan request, a viewer request. I forget exactly which commenter it was. I think I've actually had a couple people request to see that game, and I'm glad you mentioned it because that one almost slipped under my radar. So thanks guys for bringing that up. Because of that, I got the game, and I'm looking forward to playing it and showing you guys all the stuff that I do there, and I hope that's enjoyable. So guys, all right, that concludes today's test of the HTI. Let me know what you think, and if you like the content and you want to see more daily stuff like this and keep up to date with everything I do, then be sure to subscribe to the channel and comment below, tell me what you think. Alright guys, it's been a pleasure. My name is Dark Dally, and I will catch you all next time.